This is a podcast with Brendan Schroer from DesCor Builders and Chris Airy from Compendium Solutions. Welcome to our show, Leaders with Suspicions. I hope you enjoy.
Welcome, Brandon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great for you to join our podcast about the way people run their businesses and the suspicions they have. So, firstly, just to kick off, why don't you tell us where you're connecting from today?
I am in Lincoln, California right now, which is about 40 minutes northeast of Sacramento.
Okay, and why don't you tell us a bit about you and your business?
So I work for DesCor Builders. We are a general contractor. We have two offices. One, our headquarters is in the Sacramento area. In fact, our office is in Roseville, California, which is just outside of Sacramento. And then we have another office in Napa, which we call our North Bay region. So we specialize in everything commercial except single family homes. So we kind of do it all.
And tell me a story about how you ended up in this role.
So in this role, so the two founders of DesCor, when they started the business, they had a succession plan from the very get-go. And they chose myself and my two other partners, Tyler and Joe, to be the officers when they retired. And during our succession planning and training, it was just natural for me to come into the CFO role. I love data, I love analytics, I love spreadsheets and numbers. It's kind of one of my strengths. So it was naturally when we were deciding which roles to break out into, it kind of naturally just evolved into this role. So
That's an interesting story about gaining trust, really, working your way up. So,
yep.
how was that? Did you feel like you were in a process, or was it or easier than that?
No, I mean, I started out, out of college in construction. It's called a project engineer. It's kind of where you start out, then moved up to manager and project executive. But we worked on the succession training, planning for about 8 years. So we took business classes from Notre Dame. We worked with the two founders day in and day out, just kind of learning the business, not just on the project level, but overall business. How to run it, how to lead, HR compliance, all the little minute stuff that you got to learn to run a successful business.
That's quite a succession period, 8 years. Did you ever feel like you were going to come out of it?
Yeah, we did. They had a plan. It's actually on a document. We have our succession plan as well for when we get out of the way for the next generation. So it went fast, to be honest with you. When the two founders retired, it kind of snuck up on us a little bit, to be honest with you. So it was a long process, but you know what? It was great. It was smooth. No big hiccups or road bumps how we hit. So it was well planned out, well thought out, and went very smoothly.
That's you don't hear a lot of businesses taking things that seriously. I mean, what were the drivers behind that? What was in the succession plan? Was it more about soft skills or hard skills? What was the focus?
Yeah, a combo of both. Obviously, the hard skills you need to run a business, the financial aspect, the HR compliance that we talked about and stuff like that, and the operational side. But yeah, soft skills for sure. We worked on that quite a bit, um, a lot of leadership training, and just how to keep our culture. We're big on culture, how to keep that going, how to lead people, have that entrepreneurial spirit and keep that going within the company, and passing that down to the people below us, or our employees. So just a lot of training, and then like I said, the hard skills. A combo of those were just what we worked on for a long time.
So you ended up in this particular role in the succession. Was there any point in your career where you thought this isn't the right industry? It sounds like you went into this industry and you've stayed in this industry. Any second doubts ever?
No, not at all. In fact, I grew up, not to digress, I'll give you the cliff notes, but I grew up out in the country farming, mainly working in orchards and a little bit of dairy. So I didn't really have any construction experience. All I wanted to do was after high school was play football in college, and I did. And in order to play, you had to pick a career. Um, and so I picked civil engineering, but then I took calculus. Obviously, did not enjoy calculus. So when I finished playing, it's time to kind of get serious about a career. I had a great counselor, and she recommended the construction management program. I never even heard of it, so I looked it up, looked interesting. So I went back home and Chico State University, and from the very first class, I loved it. I fell in love with construction management, and I've never looked back. And I still love it to this day. I enjoy going to work every day. Got a big old smile on my face, and come home with a smile on my face as well. So.
So, one of the questions I always ask is about mentors, but you've already said you had a great counselor. Was that a school counselor, careers counselor, was it? Or
So that was just a counselor at the college I went to where I played. I did, in fact, at Chico State, my cousin, Mary, was the head of the CM department. She really kicked off my career and helped me out when I was going to school with some internships. So I got to, give her a lot of credit for that. And then the two founders of DesCor, Brad and Neil, those have been my mentors. Those guys are, just great people, great mentors. They've taught me a ton about leadership, hard skills, soft skills, just how to be a good person, a good leader, and a good business owner.
that's a tricky thing to do to be a mentor. It's a fine line between telling you what to do and telling you, suggesting that you may need to do something. Yeah. Do you
It
think
is,
they knew how to do that day one, or they also had to learn to be a mentor?
um, I think a little bit of both. I think it's ingrained in them, just knowing the two of them. But I'm sure, obviously they worked on it as well. And, we're still working on it as well. In fact, we have a very robust mentoring program for the whole company. So everyone has a mentor, or a mentee that they train, and we switch it up every 18 months. So we've really, we really bought into the mentoring program throughout the whole company. We have a whole program that we put in place. So it's up, but you're right. It is difficult. It takes a lot of work. It's a lot of effort, and you got to invest in people. And that's one thing that we pride ourselves on doing is investing in our people.
Yeah, that's fascinating that your company has basically a mentoring framework, yeah, where everybody has somebody. I worked for a SaaS business this year, helping them. They have built a platform for companies to organize that mentoring. Obviously,
Yep.
in smaller companies, the organization may not be so challenging, but in a bigger company, it could be quite difficult. So the platform helps match the right mentorship to the right mentee and creates almost a contract about what you're trying to achieve out of it. So I find it quite a fascinating area because you're asking people to help improve someone else, but they may not have the skills to do that, to be a coach or mentor. So have you had to invest in both sides of that equation?
We did. In fact, we hit 100 employees this last year, and we were doing it kind of informally. But as we grew and realized how important mentorship is, we actually hired a company to come in and help us create a program. So we have a whole packet, that we can reference with between the mentors and mentees, and we follow that program. And it's more of a guideline, when you have your mentee or mentor, you can kind of take a different direction depending on the goals of between the two people. But we do have a framework that we put in place, and we invested in that a couple of years ago, and it's really proven to be a benefit to the whole company.
Brilliant. So let's get back to your industry then. So what's happening? Is it a nice stable industry? Is it an industry in disruption? Is it transforming? Are fundamentals changing? Are building materials changing? What's going on in your industry?
In our area, it is that obviously, the economic headwinds are still affecting our clients. It's hard to, still get financing for projects. So some of the smaller projects, are easier to push through and get along, but some of our larger ones, especially our multifamily projects like our apartments, our clients are still having some difficulty getting financing. It's a challenge. But we're seeing a little relief in that in some regards on some projects. But as far as the supply chain issues and stuff like that from COVID, we're kind of through that. We haven't seen that for a while. Materials have stabilized, which is nice because that was kind of a rough period there during COVID and after COVID. But we're just working hard to get these projects going for our clients and keeping our people busy. We're really focused in our North Bay region right now, which is like the Napa area. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, and we're really trying to grow that region right now. So we're putting a lot of focus in brand recognition in that area, hiring some new skilled people in that area to join our already great team out there.
And are those challenges around financing, are they leading to you working in different ways and partnerships with financial institutions, or is it really a problem with credit ratings for clients? Is that the problem?
It's more just banks tightening up on their lending. It doesn't, we help our clients out as much as we can. Obviously we're always working on trying to get them the best prices possible. How it affects us is it's just hard to um, keep a team for that bit, especially the larger projects where they need 6 to 8 people, team members on there. It's just, we get a project, we kind of have a start date, we put a team together for it, and then that project push outs a couple months. And so we're, trying to backfill that team so they have some work to do, while they're waiting for that project. So that's like our main challenge is the kind of manpower part of it and making sure we're putting, the right people in place for that project why it's trying to get off the ground.
Okay. And I mean, that's quite an obvious problem, but what other problems are there in the industry? What long-term challenges are there taking place?
One item that we are aware of is, there's a lot of good builders out there right now, and they're all starting to get to that age where they're ready to retire. And, the younger generation, has been uh, taught to, hey, go to college and stuff like that. So we're really missing some of those trade industry, new employees, the younger generation, and they're out there. But there's a little gap there between the older generation teaching that younger generation, the hard skills that they need. So labor, we're keeping an eye on. I know we support some trade schools around this area too. So hopefully, the younger generation realize that, hey, you can have a great career working out in the field if college is not the right path for you.
Okay. So you having to step into that education gap?
Are we having to step into that?
Yeah. Is that your plan to step into that gap of skills? You say you've got labor, but they're missing some of the uh, I guess skills to, you said sort of hard skills. They're missing something, right?
Yeah, so we as a general contractor, we don't do any perform any labor on the projects. We subcontract everything out. So we see it on our side. There's a lot of good young people coming out of school. So for us hiring, it's much easier. But we see it on the subcontractor side. Out in the field every day where we have a schedule to meet and our subs say I just don't have the manpower, or maybe they're not going as quickly as we would like. But we're very collaborative and we try to help out any way we can. It's just something that we're keeping an eye on, and we have to adjust on our end. What used to take 5 days 10 15 years ago, maybe it takes 7 or 8 days now. So we just have to adjust on our side and be realistic about items like that.
Okay. So just can you talk through the roles of a master contractor and the subcontractors, how you split them?
Yeah, so basically, the general contractor has the contract with the client, and then from there, we hire all the subcontractors to do the work. So the client hires us, we hire all the subcontractors, and then together as a team, we build the project, of course, with the design partners as well. So we run it from beginning to end, manage all the costs, manage the schedule, all the materials, with our subcontractors. So we're kind of, as I mentioned, we don't do any self-perform work on the project. We have some carpenters, some laborers for cleanup and pickup stuff, but we mainly manage it, all our subcontractors. And on the large projects, we could have 30 to 40 of them, different companies to manage smaller projects, maybe 10 to 15.
And the way you work is that the subcontractors do all the resource rostering and scheduling for their work package on the job. You don't.
We provide them the schedule of the timelines they need to meet, and then on their end, they take that schedule and provide the resources in order to meet those timelines. Correct.
Right. And in some of these podcasts I've been doing in different industries. There's a similar model of somebody owning the master relationship and the outcomes, but subcontracting the specialisms. The challenge I've seen across a number of those interviews has been around maintaining quality of work being done by yourself. Yeah. How does that manifest and how do you control and manage quality?
Yeah, so we have what we call our QA/QC program. It's a very robust, detailed plan for every scope of work on a project. So our project teams use that platform when they're walking the projects to hold our subcontractors accountable for the quality of work. Because quality is number one for us, and our clients expect that. And to be honest, the subs want to provide a quality project too. They're very proud of their work. And so as a team, we're very collaborative. And as a team, we work together with our subcontractors and make sure we're delivering a quality project to the client. Um, you know, we treat we don't treat our subcontractors, as like a lower subcontractor. We treat them as a partner. We help them along the way in any way we can, and really, they're almost like a part of the DesCor family when we're on a project together. So that collaborative approach, combined with the client and the design team, really helps that quality on a project see through to the end.
And I could see how that's vital for a long-term sustainable ability to work, really, good, trustable subcontractors. But I guess sometimes it gets tough, right? Because your client view of quality, your view of quality, and the subcontractor's view of quality may not be perfectly aligned. You've described a manual, a framework that you have, yeah, but in the
Yep.
end, it has to be interpreted, right? And beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So how does that work?
Yeah, you're definitely right there. And so usually what happens is we call them when you're finishing, um, the end of the project, we call it our punch list and a punch list walk with the client. And that's where you find out, the ins and outs of what they're really looking for. So for instance, if we're doing a tenant improvement, which is an interior remodel of an existing space, you only get one of those punch list walks, so you kind of learn on the fly. But when you're doing a multifamily unit with 300 plus units, after the first unit walk, you really learn what the client's looking for. And from there, we will adjust our QA/QC program to fit that mold of what they're looking for. We'll actually take our subs on the walk with us so that they can kind of understand what the client's looking for. And from there on out, it's usually pretty smooth sailing.
Okay. And your business relationship ends at the handover at the end of that punch list, yeah?
Well, our main goal is to keep that relationship going. In fact, 90% of our work is from repeat clients, and almost 100% of our work is from a prior relationship. So our main goal is to keep that relationship and do the next project with them. And we're very successful at that. And, we don't sacrifice quality for profits. If we see a project needs more resources out there, we will send them out there. Quality is number one for us because we value that relationship more than making a couple extra bucks on a project. We want to do all their work moving forward.
Okay, but you don't blend over into facilities management or maintenance services or anything like that. You
Oh,
stay to your wheelhouse.
yeah, no, we don't do that, but we do help out and keep that relationship alive. I'll give you an example. We finished a project in 2021. Is one of the last projects that I was a project manager for, and we have some issues with the pool and the spa right now. And we're jumping in and helping out the client, even though our warranty is way past due. We're making phone calls, helping them correct the issues, and that's part of the relationship that we want to keep alive with this very special client of ours. So,
Yeah, goodwill is invaluable, isn't it? Okay.
correct.
Right. So let's move on to the day in the life of Brandon then. I mean, how long does your day survive on your plan versus reality? Take me through how it works.
My day is very different every day. I'll give you an example for this week. We are in a big push in our pre-construction department right now. So I'm actually working technically for one of our pre-con managers on a bid for a large apartment complex that we're out to bid for right now. So I'm kind of an estimator right now.
Right.
Tomorrow, though, tomorrow I'm heading to our Napa office to visit one of our project teams up there on a new project we just started. And then we have an interview with a potential employee up there in the afternoon. So on Thursday, I'm kind of, doing interviews slash maybe little project exec work with our team. And then on Fridays, I'll be closing out our financials. So I'll go back to the CFO role and close out the financials. So it varies depending on the day. We are I've mentioned it, a very collaborative company. We have what we call our 50%, 51% rule, which is, do you see a need, fill it. And so we have a need right now. So I'm just stepping in to help fill that gap that we have. So we are, an open office. We don't have any offices. Everyone sits out in one big room together. We have a couple huddle rooms and that's it. So I actually sit with three pre-construction team members in my little area. So yeah, it's like I said, it depends on the day.
You said 51%. What's that 51% of what? Sorry.
Well, if you see, we call it our 51% rule. If you see a need, fill it. For instance, our pre-construction department said, "Hey, we're a little short on staff right now with this big bid. Is anyone can help?" And so when I saw the email, I had some time. I said, "Yep, I'm stepping in. I'm helping." So I have, 5 or 6 trade packages that I'm working on right now for the project.
Sorry, I just didn't understand the 51%.
Oh yeah, that's just what we call it. So
Oh, okay. Right.
yeah,
Well,
stepping
lost.
over the line to help out.
Okay. Lost in the midst of time. Right.
Yeah.
So how do you prioritize all these competing demands, right? I mean, what are you in the role you've got into versus stepping in elsewhere, right? There's a constant pull between strategic leadership and operational noise. Yeah. How do you make sure you've got balance and you're hitting longer term goals?
Lots and lots of meetings. So we huddle. We have a great executive team. It's not just the three of us. We have a fantastic, team in every our team member in each department that really helps out. And so we meet quite often and we prioritize and we raise our hand or we split stuff up and from there, we go and put it in place. So obviously, when financial stuff comes up, that's my priority, and that will come up. Towards the end of this week, we'll close out the month. But when we're trying to get work, like the one we're working on right now, that's a priority. So I'm jumping in and helping out there. So by meeting and collaborating with each other, weekly, we can really split up those duties and make sure that we are prioritizing many different items. We just help each other out and splitting those duties up.
Okay. So tell me about the KPIs that you use. You mentioned earlier on that you love data. So I'm hoping you're going to say that you actually run the business with data as well. So tell me a bit about those KPIs.
So when it comes to financials, pretty standard revenue, gross margin, NIBT, and the net income. It's obviously something we track. We also track our overhead quite heavily as well, because that comes into play. Out in the field, in the operation, we have our projects turn in monthly what we call our FBI reports, and that's our fundamental business indicators. That's what FBI stands for. And that tracks, the pre-construction aspect or the buyout of the project, the safety, the schedule, the financials, and the closeout. And so our VP of construction actually tracks those on a matrix each month, and then we review them, every couple of months or every quarter with the team to make sure that we're meeting our goals and our standards that are part of our FBI process. I mean, we could deep dive into that, but that's kind of the basics of it right there. So the 5 items we tracked.
I'd like you to deep dive just a little bit into ratios because I think for the listeners, everyone's obviously from different industries, but working out what the important ratios are. And the point of our podcast is you as a leader, you have suspicions about which changes and what ratios matter. So without giving away all your trade secrets, if you could talk a little bit about what ratios give you indications that things are not heading where you want, and which ratios you think matter and which ones you don't.
Okay. Well, on the financial side, we track more percentages and ratios. So we set our goals. We set a overall goal for revenue, gross margin, and IBT and net income and overhead, and then we track percentages on those each month. So we have a yearly goal and then a monthly goal, and we track against that. In our large spreadsheet that we update every month. So that on the financial side, we're more percentages and trying to hit those markers. On the field side, we also have goals in those, in our buyout, we want to get contracts out within 2 weeks. So we track that. That's a metric that we track on the pre-con side. On the schedule side, we don't want to be, our goal is not to be behind schedule at all or be ahead of schedule if possible. Fee, we set during what we call our turnover meeting, we set a fee goal. So we track that, on the financial side of the projects. And then safety, our safety goal is 0 incidents on a project. We're very safety conscious. So that's a pretty easy one. And then punch, our quality turnover goal and closeout, we go for 0 punches items. It's very difficult to do. We've done it a couple times here and there, but then turnover basically 2 weeks after we get our final CFO, the owner has all the documents they want or need for the project, and then we can kind of shake hands and move on to the next one.
And you operate in different locations. Do you find any of those margin goals or quality goals differ by type of project or location?
Definitely. In fact, we track all of those things I mentioned per market sector. So we're in about 14 to 15 different market sectors. So, our tenant improvement KPIs are vastly different than our KPIs for multifamily. So easier to get, for example, easier to get a 0 punch list on a tenant improvement compared to punching out 300 plus units on a multifamily project. Almost impossible, but it's something we strive for, and it's a goal out there so that when we do that, it's minimal. We keep it as minimal as much as possible.
Okay. And is there any data available for what good looks like, or have you had to learn and build your own database yourself?
We have built our own database ourselves based on history. And, we're always tweaking that a little bit. AI, obviously, as is big right now. That's something that we're focused on. And we have some new software that's helping us track some of those items, especially when it comes to scheduling and financials and stuff like that. So, yeah, we're big into that. We're always tweaking it, always trying to improve, always trying to get better, trying to be as innovative as possible where we can be.
Okay, thank you. So growth then, how are you going to grow the business in the next 12 months? What's your plans? You said the economy is a bit tight at the moment, but how are you going to work around that?
Yeah. Actually, last year, our steering committee, which works on the business, we planned out what we call our 2030 vision. So we planned out some revenue goals with people counts out to 2030 for both regions. And so we're really focused on hitting those numbers, but not just a revenue for revenue's sake. Good projects. We obviously don't want to hit a revenue number and then not hit our gross margin goals as well. So we're really focused on maintaining our brand awareness in the Sacramento area, our headquarters, which we're pretty established here. But our key focus, I mentioned earlier, is in our North Bay office. We're really, really focused on ramping up that office. Culture is big for us, and that office is about an hour and a half away to 2 hours, depending on where you're at in the region. And so we're really focused on, getting over there, keeping our culture alive over there, because that's what differentiates us from other companies. And it's difficult. It's a challenge. I'm not going to lie. It's proven to be more difficult than we thought. Even so, we had a 2030 mission to start a third region, and last year we decided to forego that unless something drops on our lap. But we didn't want to take away focus on our culture and building that office to focus on a third one because we just thought it dilute the culture, and that's a non-starter for us.
Okay, I get that. But despite you saying you got a great culture, and I see this in many industries I work in, is that everyone's PowerPoint deck looks the same. Yeah, we're great people, we've got top quality, we've got a lovely culture, and we'll partner with you as the client. You could write the deck before you met the company. How do you find that works when you're trying to win new business as you are in your new office?
Well, when it comes to culture, I think one thing that separates us is we don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. We actually um, hire for cultural fit before we hire on hard skills. Obviously, hard skills are important, but if a potential employee is just not a fit with our culture, it's a non-starter. We won't hire that person. We think of our company as a family. We often call it the DesCor family. We have lots of company events where the spouses and kids are involved. In fact, our summer picnic, I think we had 140, 150 people there, and we only have 100 employees. So it's great to see everyone's families and kids and stuff. So um, that's one thing that we really focus on is hiring on to fit our culture. And then the hard skills, if they're missing some, we'll teach those. But the soft skills are tough to teach. Sometimes that's just ingrained in people, and they got to fit us in order to be part of the family.
And I really understand that once you've got the good people and you're overseeing it and you're working with clients, they can feel the difference. The challenge I've always seen is how you win new business. So you're entering a new geography, trying to grow in new markets in that new geography. How do you get over that initial line?
Well, it's proven to be more difficult than we thought. Once we get the chance, once we get the foot in the door, that's where we really shine because we can prove to the clients like, hey, we told you all this stuff up front. Give us a shot, and we're going to prove it to you. And we do that every single time. I'll toot our own horn to that. Once a client works with us, they want to work with us again, and that's just ingrained in every single person in the company. Um, but yes, it is. You got to work hard to get your foot in the door, and that's what we've been working on the last couple of years out in that region. So
I was hoping you had the answer. I was going to write it down because it is.
no.
It's like getting over that line. It's if you were the client side, you hear the same story, but it's really hard to tell until you tried, right? And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of luck in there for sure, but again, we have a great team out there that's really selling DesCor. We have some hometown hitters in that area that we've hired in the last couple of years that have a lot of relationships, and we are trying to grow those relationships, as much as we can. And as I mentioned, we just started a project out there with a great client, so we did get our foot in the door, and we're hoping that leads to new work. So I know our team out there. We have a great team on that project, and they're going to kill that one, and that will turn into a really good relationship.
Yeah, I think it does go slower in industries where you can't give a free trial away or some other proof point. Yeah, it's you have to do something, get the case study, and move on, and that takes time. Yeah,
It does take time. Yes, we established that office in 2021, and it's taken the whole 4 years to really start gaining some steam out there. So,
yeah, yeah. I mean, in software, you give somebody a free trial, it's easy, right? So
oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, and we've not saying that we've given away work, but we've given some good deals out there to get our foot in the door. So,
yeah. So the um, innovation, yeah. You mentioned earlier on that you'd brought in some new software to help with the scheduling and rostering. How do you keep on top of innovation in your business? And where do you try and apply innovation? Do you have a systemic process, or is it accidental, or is it fortune? How do you plan innovation in your business?
that's a good question. You know, we started, let's see, when we see, it really started on our financial side. We were working with a couple different programs, and we saw a need, that we needed some more insight into our financials on the project side. And so the software, we moved to a different software, and it was a big investment. Um, and so we did a lot of research. We just want that ROI on that investment. And so we really dig into that. And that one has proven to have a fantastic ROI. We've seen the results of that. Um, but when it comes to other innovation, you know, we track when we see our KPI metrics that we track in our FBI reports. For instance, scheduling, we saw that we had some issues with scheduling. Our schedules are falling a little bit more behind than we initially wanted. And so we started researching um, how we could help better those metrics. And we actually looked at switching software. And then by doing the research, we actually found a AI consultant company, which is a software that we can plug our existing schedules into, and then it gives us all kinds of KPIs. Total float, slack, acceleration. And then you get partway through the schedule, and it'll tell you, hey, your schedule is showing this, but based on where you're at right now, you're probably going to end up on this date. So we just if we see a need, we'll do some research, and then we'll try to fix that. And so that's kind of, we don't really have like a plan or system in place. It's just we look at our metrics every month, and if we see we're falling behind somewhere, we try to fix it, and then we go do our research from there. Now AI has definitely helped that out now. I use AI pretty much every day, and we are starting to work on a program for our company. We're building our own GPT box to help us with safety manuals, contract reading, some legal issues. But that we're just diving into that right now. So we do use AI to help us now fill gaps on that, whether it's finding a software program or just using that to help us fill a need.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things we're building at the moment is a knowledge base. I usually call it GPT box, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Piece of technology because we think eventually people are going to get a bit concerned about feeding their intellectual property to the public cloud, GPTs and the rest of them. I know those organizations might respond and ring fence your data and your intellectual property, but we're looking at that as well. So it's interesting you say that because it's something I've seen across a number of businesses. How do you make it easier to surface the corporate knowledge to somebody who needs it without them spending hours reading stuff, right? It's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a key quick win, I think. Um, in terms of innovation, do you feel that's getting any harder as you get bigger?
Um, yeah, no. I don't see that. We are very smart about how we grow, very responsible about it. We have a very great onboarding program as well. So yeah, I don't see that as a challenge for us right now. So
Okay.
yeah.
And is that part of the mentorship program or are people's objectives to come up with ideas and share them, or is it just an extra on top?
Yeah, I mean, it's open to everyone. It's actually one of our 2030 missions goals is to, be innovative, come up with new software. We actually have a goal in there, and I'll be honest, we haven't really dived into it, but we have a goal to create our own app that's, unique to DesCor. Another big goal of ours is something we're working on business plan right now is called BIM VDC. It's 3D modeling. It's a big investment, but we believe that is a future of construction. And so we are working on a business plan right now for that, which would be a new department for us. It's proven to be more difficult to get it off the ground than we originally anticipated. But we're just adapting and modifying our plan and going from there. So
is that 3D modeling of what you're building, or 3D modeling of the environment around where you're building?
it is 3D modeling on the buildings that we're building. So yeah, I mean, it's out there. It's been out there for a while. We just in our area in our market sectors, it's just not a huge component of those types of projects right now. But we're trying to change that. That's one of our goals is to prove to our clients that hey, this is going to benefit you in the end. The 3D modeling, not to dive into it, you can find out a lot of clash. It's called clash detection. Instead of finding out that the fire sprinkler line's in the way of the HVAC line and it's already installed and now you got to send a change order in to remove it. You can find that up front and change that. So there's a cost associated with that, and it's finding that balance of paying the costs up front or paying them down the road when you come into that situation. So,
And what's the relationship for that between yourselves and the architecture firms? I mean, surely they should have prevented some of that in the building design, right?
that goes off on another tangent. It depends. A lot of time we do design build.
Okay.
So with design build, I don't know if you're familiar with that, where the HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and fire alarm, they design the systems themselves. So they take the architectural plans and then they have their own set of drawings, and then we package them up together for the permit. So a lot of the times, if you go design build, you can avoid those situations because that's kind of their job. When it's just plans and specs, meaning the whole entire design set is done, like the job we're bidding right now, everything's done, designed. That's where you can run into those issues. Again, it's out there. The architects using CAD can put it into BIM VDC. There's just a cost component to that hasn't caught on with clients yet because it's I'll be honest, not the cheapest thing to do. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Makes sense if you can provide it as a service, as economies of scale and expertise, isn't it? And value add. So
that's part of our business plan. How do we do that? So
overall then you seem to be, you say you've got 30 objectives, you've got 100 people, you're growing out a new office, you're expanding your services. That's a lot to pull together, right? You're pulling yourselves in many different directions. How are you holding that together and making sure you move strategically forward?
Yes, it is difficult. And I mentioned, we have our steering committee that works on the business. So we have a pool of shareholders in the company, and every October we vote for 9 members for the steering committee. And then once that steering committee is set, we meet every month and we work on the business. We just met actually this Monday and went over 9 or 10 items. And together as a collaborative group, we really can come up with some good ideas, split duties, and make sure that everyone in the room is being heard and we're doing it smartly and strategically while meeting our KPIs for the business. So we make pretty much every decision together. It's not just the 3 officers making decisions on behalf of everyone else. It's that steering committee, that makes those major decisions. We also have a leadership group, which involves, another pool of employees, and they help out with leadership and mentoring and some other, aspects of the business as well. So we just feel that team approach, we make better decisions together, and so that's how we tackle those challenges by expanding, growing, our two regions.
I hear that as you have thinking time and you organize that thinking time. And I'm not sure it's something that enough organizations do, to take that time to discuss and think and get consensus. So sounds really positive to me.
Yeah, in fact, we started this during COVID. It was a scramble. Not knowing if we had to shut our doors. I remember a phone call late at night, and our governor decided to keep construction open. So we didn't know if we were going to be coming to work the next day. And so we were in scramble mode. And so when we got past that, we decided, hey, we need to really focus on working on the business and not in the business. We still need to focus working in the business. Well, we got out of working on the business. And so we actually set our steering committee meetings up for the whole year. So it's already been scheduled throughout the whole year. We come with agendas. Our agendas do change depending, what we talked about the last meeting, but they're set in stone. So, we meet for 2 to 3 hours every month. And that might turn into, separate little meetings. For instance, we have an action item that came out of our steering committee on Monday, and we have a meeting for it next Wednesday with a smaller group. So that's how we really stay in front of making sure the business is running smoothly.
That's quite simple, though, isn't it? An on the business steering committee. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no huge cost there stopping anyone else doing it. It's
No, you just got to do it, and that's why we schedule out for the whole year. It's on the calendar, can't get around it, and it's just it's very important to us, and so that's why we do it that way. So, and it's turned out to be very beneficial to us and the business as a whole.
So other than telling our listeners to work on their business, not just in it, could you take me through some other advice you would give to either your younger yourself or someone else entering the industry as a leader?
Yeah, we actually leadership is huge for us. We have a theme every year, and in fact, our theme for 2025 is called the Year of Leadership. We've actually hired a leadership company. It's a big investment to come in and help us with our leadership training. It's called Maxwell Leadership. In fact, I just had a meeting with my executive coach yesterday, and we have some other part of our leadership team involved in this training as well. So I would just say, coming in, be hungry, be patient, and be humble. I know when I came in this industry, I took those three things to heart. I was hungry. I wanted more. I wanted to learn. But I was also patient, knowing that, if I do the right things, my goals will come, and then, stay humble as well. So that'd be my be advice to the younger generation. And that's my advice to my two younger boys as well. So,
And what lesson have you learned the hard way that you wish you hadn't learned the hard way?
be patient. Don't jump into things and put your foot in your mouth. As a project manager, I thought I knew all the answers and jumped in there a little too fast without taking a step back to think. It's a little embarrassing. I had a great superintendent one time tell me, and I noticed he took notes. He'd go out in the field and he'd take notes from everyone he talked to. And he said, I'll get back to you in 10 minutes. And he'd come back and listen to those voice recordings. And he'd just sit there and think about it for, 5-10 minutes, maybe do a little research, and he'd go back out and talk to him. And I asked him why he did that. He said, hey, you know what? Sometimes if you out there and you make an emotional decision, it's going to be a wrong one a lot of the time. So I try to come back and make non-emotional decisions. Instead of emotional one, make the right one. So I've really taken that to heart and really try to sit back, listen to everyone's opinions, and then formulate my own, and then, interject from there.
Okay, I think that's amazing advice, actually. And it's again on try thinking. It might help. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one. Yeah. So thank you very much for the insights today. If somebody wants to get in touch with you and your company, how would they do that?
If they would like to learn more about DesCor, they can go to DesCorBuilders.com. That's DesCor Builders.com. if they want to look me up, I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. It's just Brandon Schroer, Schroer. Look me up and send me a message, and we can connect from there.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate the day.
Yeah, thank you.